What's up, guys? I'm Gunner, back for another episode of the GMoney Poker Vlog. Interesting session today. I'm not going to spoil it. If you haven't, check out the PLO Mastermind Preflop Skills Trainer. I was using this a bunch on the airplane when I was going back and forth everywhere. Let's get into some hands. I get to the lodge and the PLO game starts at about 8:30. The game is a $1,000 cap, so I buy that to start, but one guy keeps winning and he's been playing fishy. So I keep adding on to my stack to match him. After seeing a few flops, trying to hit something against this opponent, and missing, I'm now down about 400 to start until this hand happens. I look down at ace-ace 10-5 with ace-high hearts. I'm on the button and the $10 straddle's on. The hijack, who's the opponent that's been playing fishy, opens it to 35. He's been extremely aggressive, so I'm going to look to try and get the money in here. The cutoff makes it easier. This guy's been playing super aggressive and is already down a bunch. He's been hitting the ATM and Venmoing another player at the table to get more chips. He just rebought for 1,000 and he raises to 100. This is a dream spot so far. I pot it to 350 and it folds back to the hijack. The hijack has about 1,600 and flicks in the call. It's back on the cutoff, who jams all in for 1,020 total. It's back on me. I got one move. I'm all in. The hijack calls. They want to run it once. I'm hoping my aces can hold, or I hit hearts. Come on, dealer. Let's see an ace or hearts on the flop. The flop comes 3-5-7 rainbow. Not what I was hoping for. The turn's a 6 of diamonds. Now the hijack flips his hand and shows that he made a straight on the turn. I'm now drawn dead, and the 5 of clubs on the river doesn't mean anything. I pay out the chips to my opponents, and I'm now down 2,000 to start, and my $5,000 rebuild just turned into a $7,000 rebuild. I wish we could have ran it twice, or I could have got a better run out. But when your opponents come to gamble and you get it in good, that's all you can do. Let's see if I can get them back. I now look down at 10-9-5-4, double suited in the hijack. There's no straddle. The fishy player that won our money in the last hand limps. I'm going to play a pot in position, so I limp as well. The cutoff limps and the small blind limps before the big blind makes it 20. All of us call, and we're headed 5 ways to a flop. The flop comes 5-King-5 rainbow. I flop trips, and it checks to me. I'm going to check here to give the fishy player some rope for future streets. The turn can't bring straights or flushes, and I'll have some deception. The cutoff checks as well, and we're headed 5 ways to the turn. The turn throws us a curveball. It's a king of clubs. The blinds check, and the fishy player bets 50. Now that my trips have been downgraded, I could fold, but against this opponent, I think he could have bluffs in his range. It's also hard for him to have king 5 since I blocked that. I still have outs to boat up on the river against a king, and he could overvalue his hand easily. I make the call, it folds around, and we're heads up to the river. The river comes the 9 of diamonds, giving me a full house. The fishy player bets 200. I just made a boat, and I block all the other boats. Definitely not finding a fold the way that this guy's been playing, so I make the call. I show my hand, and my opponent shows king 9 for a better full house. I kind of owned myself in this one. But against this player, I'm not too worried about it being a bad play. On to the next one. I'm now stuck about 2,400, and I get moved from the must move to the main game. This is a move I really didn't want to make because there was a bunch of fishy players on the other table, and this table has more solid opponents. I touch minus 2,700 at the low point, and this table does get a bit better after the fishy opponent that won against us on the aces hand joins the table. He's sitting deep stacked and has about 3,500, and we're ready to battle. We got a hand to battle with too, in ace-ace, jack-3, with trip diamonds. I'm in the $10 straddle. Middle position, who's the fishy player, pots it to 35. Low jack, hijack, button, and the small blind call, before I pot it to 250. Middle position, low jack, and the small blind make the call, and we're headed 4 ways to the flop. We flop the diamond draw on 7 jack-king with 2 diamonds. I'm going to bet here to apply pressure to my opponents, and I choose a smaller bet sizing of 300. Only the fishy player in middle position calls, and we're heads up to the turn. The turn's a 10 of clubs. This doesn't improve my hand except a gut shot to a queen to make Broadway. This guy doesn't like to make folds, so I'm not going to try and bluff him here, but I do have a lot of equity. I check it over to him. He bets 600. At this point there's over 2,200 in the pot, so I'm getting decent odds on a call to try and hit diamonds or a queen. This opponent's also deep stacked and has made some errors so far. I'm going to make the call, given the implied odds and the decent pot odds I'm getting. So we're heads up to the river. We've got Frank dealing this hand, and he dealed the hand with aces earlier, Come on, Frank. I'm gonna need a diamond here to make up for the aces hand earlier. Frank puts out the 5 of diamonds. Let's go, Frank. You're the man. I now have a decision. Do I want to lead into my opponent to try and get value? So far, I've seen this guy be aggressive and overvalue hands. He's also bluffed a decent bit. I think if I check, I can get value from worse flushes or bluffs. He might even overvalue a straight if he made one on the turn. Along the same lines, I could bet to get value from worse flushes or maybe straights, but then bluffs would fold. I ultimately decide to check with intentions of check jamming. Immediately after I check, my opponent snap checks back, and he says, "Freaking diamond, man." He shows ace queen 5-3 with queen high hearts. So he hit his gut shot on the turn to make Broadway, but we outdrew him on the river. After seeing his cards, I wish I would have found the lead on the river, but hindsight's 2020. Anyways, shout out to my man Frank, thanks for the diamond, helping me to get unstuck. After getting lucky in that last hand, I now look down at King Jack 10-9 with King High Hearts in middle position. The player to my right pots it to 15. I make the call, and the fishy opponent we've been battling with makes it 65 in the low jack. 3 players at the table make the call, I make the call, and we're headed 5 ways to the flop. The flop's good. King 4, rainbow. I'm not going to slow play trips with 4 opponents. I bet 100, the fishy player calls, the other opponents fold, and we're heads up to the turn. The turn's even better. It's the jack of diamonds, giving me the nuts. I've got the nuts, and this guy's saying he has a king too. I'm going to keep betting. I make it 325, and my opponent calls. We're heads up to the river, and I don't want to see any card higher than a jack, so the dealer puts out the ace of hearts. I'm now losing to ace king, but against this opponent, I think I could bet fold. I bet 600. My opponent doesn't think too long. He makes a call. He shows jack 9-8. So he called the flop, drawing to a full house that was no good. Hit his card on the turn, and we're going to get max value in this one. After winning this hand, I'm running up a stack. I'm now sitting on about 6,500. Problem is, I'm in for 6,800, so I'm going to need to win some more. Let's see if I can do it. I now look down at ace queen jack 6 double suited in the $10 straddle. The opponent we've been battling with put the $20 straddle on. The button and the small blind limp. This is a good hand to raise, but the guy on my left's been very aggressive pre-flop, so I'm going to call, make sure he stays in the pot, and maybe let him build it. I limp, and the guy in the $20 straddle doesn't disappoint. He pots it to 105. All 3 of us make the call, and we're headed 4 ways to the flop. The flop is way above average. It comes ace queen 2 with 2 clubs and 1 diamond. I flop top 2 with the jack high flush draw and the ace high backdoor flush draw. It checks to me. I'm going to give the guy on my left some rope and come over the top with the check raise if he bets. I check it to him. He doesn't disappoint again. He bets 175. It folds back to me. Definitely want to put more money in against this guy. He's sitting on about 3,400 right now. I pot it. It's actually a 950 pot, but the dealer says 1,000, so it's a $1,000 bet. My opponent thinks for a little bit and makes the call. We're heads up to the turn here. Interesting pot developing. The dealer puts out the king of diamonds. This wasn't exactly the card I wanted to see because jack 10 gets there and ace king's now beating my ace queen. But upon further inspection, I realize it's a diamond, giving me the backdoor nut flush draw and the front door jack high flush draw, along with my 2 pair. If my opponent does have jack 10, I'm not even in that bad of shape. My opponent has about a pot size bet left. I'm going to put the pressure on him. I pot it. The dealer says it's 29.75, which is off by about 500 bucks, but it puts them all in. We're playing dealer limit Omaha right now. My opponent goes deep into the tank. He's thinking, he's hemming and hawing, he's flicking his cards, and I'm starting to hope for a call. My opponent then flips over his cards and tables them, and he shows 10, 9, 7, 4 with 3 clubs in his hand. Alright, this is what dreams are made of. My opponent is drawing to a jack because his clubs are dead. There's only 2 jacks that would help him because I have the jack of clubs and the jack of diamonds gives me the nut flush. I'm praying for a call and doing everything I can to look nervous. I'm hoping he thinks I'm bluffing and he doesn't realize that his hand can't catch a bluff. After thinking about it some more, he finally folds. Not going to play for a $7,000 pot this time, but I do take it down and I'm officially unstuck and up about $1,300 on the session at this point. Let's go. I went from being down about 2,700 and currently am up about 1,300. Sitting on an $8,200 stack. Let's run it up. You might have noticed a few hands ago that I switched one seat to my left. It's because a new player was getting moved to our table. This guy's probably the best PLO player in Austin, and he always buys in to cover everyone at the table. Having an $8,000 stack, I don't really want him on my left, so I made sure he was on my right. We're about to battle this hand, so let's see what happens. I look down at 8-7-7-6 with 8 high spades on the button. The $10 straddle's on. There's a few limps in front of me. I limp as well. There's a new opponent on my left who's a short stack in the small blind. He makes it 75. The low jack, cutoff, and myself make the call, and we're headed 4 ways to the flop. We get another above average flop. 8-7 deuce, rainbow. I flop middle set with the blocker to top set. The small blind snap jams for $60. It folds to the cutoff, who's the extremely tough pro. He raises to 250. I'm a bit sketched out, because obviously I don't have top set, but I'm not going anywhere. I make the call, and we're headed to the turn, heads up for the side pot. The turn's a safe one. It's a 3 of diamonds. The cutoff now checks it to me. Part of me thinks I'm getting trapped, but my hand's too strong to check it back. I bet 500. The cutoff thinks for a bit, and he folds, so I don't have to sweat out a big pot against a good opponent. The small blind wants to run it twice for the main pot. He flips over ace, queen, jack, jack. He doesn't have a diamond draw, so he's drawn to a jack and a jack only. I'm gonna scoop here most of the time. Let's cut to the clip and watch this one in real time.
Just like that. You say twice?
Yeah, twice.
God, that's
Hey, that's good content. I'll take it.
wow.
Right up, quick.
Unreal.
Yup, sometimes it's like that. My opponent hits jack, jack, which is about a 1 in 1,000 chance, and I'm gonna get scooped here. You can tell from the clip I wasn't too mad about it. Small pot, good content. I even won a bit in this hand with the side pot. Let's bounce back and run it up some more. Next up, I look down at ace queen jack 6 with ace high diamonds in the big blind. The $10 straddle's on and the low jack limps. It folds around to me, and I limp too. I guess I was feeling like being a nit this hand. The straddle checks. The flop comes jack 6-3, rainbow with 1 diamond. I bet 25. I got top 2. The straddle and the low jack call. We're 3 ways to the turn, and I feel like I have the best hand. The 2 of hearts on the turn doesn't change much, so I keep betting. I make it 75. This time, only the low jack calls, and we're heads up to the river. The river's above average. It's the jack of spades, giving me the nuts on the river. That's always a good thing to have. I bet 225. He calls. I show. He mucks. I win. Easy game. Alright, we got a bomb pot. One of the more interesting ones I've played in a while. I look down at queen jack 10-5 double suited. I'm in the low jack, and the flops come king 2 queen on the top, and 9-7 jack with 2 spades on the bottom. I don't have too much. I have an open ender with a pair and 2 backdoor flush draws on the top, and I have top pair with a gut shot on the bottom. The small blind bets 75. I'm the only player that makes a call, and we're heads up to the turn. The turn is ideal. It's the 6 of clubs on the top and the 8 of diamonds on the bottom. I improve to a flush draw on the top and the nut straight on the bottom. The small blind checks it to me. I bet 200 for value, and the small blind calls. We're headed to rivers, which comes to 8 of clubs on the top and the 4 of clubs on the bottom. The small blind checks it to me, and I'm going to be honest with y'all here. I didn't even realize that I'd backdoored the flush on the top. I thought I just had the nut straight on the bottom board. In thinking this, I wanted to bet big to blow my opponent off his hand if he had something good on the top board, so I bet pot for 655. If I had known that I had the flush, I would have done the same move, so I kind of luck out in that regard. My opponent doesn't think too long and makes the call. Let's cut to the clip where I unintentionally slow roll my opponent.
I just got the bottom.
Alright, you got queen 10, queen 10.
Oh no, I got a flush,
You got a
my bad.
flush
I didn't
on
realize I had a
top,
flush.
And he's got queen 10 on the bottom. 650.
Forgot about the flush outs. Back door.
I'm glad you know these things too.
So I unintentionally slow roll my opponent because I'm just dumb sometimes. My opponent showed 8-10, so he flopped the straight on the bottom. Not sure what he had on the top, if anything. Hidden in that clip was some interesting strategic insight from another opponent at the table. If you didn't catch it, here it is again.
Well, you know these things too.
Gonna have to remember that one for next time. I'm in for 6,800 and was down 2,700 at that one point, but I'm now up to 9,800. I'm getting tired, so I cash out a $3,000 profit. Here's my final thoughts. Good session today. I won 3,000. I only have 2,000 more to rebuild. I'm gonna be back soon with another vlog. Make sure to click that subscribe button. See y'all there. Peace.